Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about Cricut supplies and materials, what works well for me, what doesn't, and what I like to use instead. These are tips I wish I knew when I first got my Cricut. Before I get started, just a quick heads up, if you add anything to your Cricut machine that isn't Cricut branded and it causes damage, it might not be covered under the 1-year warranty, so just keep that in mind as you're trying out different tools. I hope you find this video helpful. If you do, give it a thumbs up. I would also love it if you subscribed if you are new to my channel, so let's jump right in. First, I want to talk about cutting mats. You don't have to use Cricut brand cutting mats. As you can see here, I have a variety of different brands. I've used ones from Tech Wrap Craft and a brand from Amazon. It's called Nakapa. Personally, I prefer the Cricut mats. I don't even have a specific reason, but I'm always grabbing for those. If you're looking for a more affordable option, there are definitely good off-brand choices out there. That said, Cricut mats actually go on sale pretty often on Amazon, and sometimes they're the same price or even cheaper than the off-brands. So if you need a new mat, I'd recommend searching for the best deal at the time since prices do change a lot. For weeding vinyl, I do like Cricut's weeding tool. I especially like it for HTV projects. I also use it to help remove tape from my sublimation projects, and it's really handy for that. However, when it comes to adhesive vinyl, I'm always reaching for a pen tool. Honestly, I'm shocked Cricut hasn't come out with their own version of this yet. It just works so well, especially for tiny, intricate cuts. Next, I want to talk about the Cricut SelfHealing Mats. These I definitely recommend. It makes weeding so much easier. When I'm using my pen tool to weed, having that mat underneath gives you something a bit softer to press into instead of a hard surface, so I find it makes it easier to weed. Plus, it saves your desk from getting covered in all those little weeding nicks. My old desk had little marks all over it. I also like to use this when I'm cutting things, like here I'm cutting some tape. Sometimes I'll cut rolls of vinyl on it as well. I totally forgot to add this Cricut rotary cutter in my video. However, I do recommend this as well. Next, I want to talk about the scraper tool. Cricut makes a small and an extra large one. Between the two of these, I definitely recommend the larger one. It's super helpful for a lot of projects, especially working with larger designs. I haven't used the smaller scraper in years. That said, I would just skip both of those and use a squeegee instead. My favorite squeegee is this one from Tech Wrap Craft. I think it's like $5. It's a bit wider than the Cricut XL scraper, and what I really love is that it has a felt edge. This is a game changer when you're making stickers with a laminate sheet because the felt edge prevents bubbles. I use this every time I'm adding transfer tape to vinyl. I also like to use these to remove paper from my cutting mat. With the squeegee being larger, it makes it really quick. It has a little measurement guide printed on it, which is nice, though I personally never use that part. Next up is the Cricut Brayer tool. I use this for every single Cricut project. It's perfect for pressing your material firmly onto the cutting mat. This helps the vinyl stick better and it keeps it from shifting around during the cut. There are some off-brand options on Amazon, and while I haven't personally tried them, I'm sure they work just fine. But I've always used the Cricut Brayer and really like it. Since I reach for it so often, I figured I might as well stick with the original. Now let's talk about Cricut Blades. The premium fine point blade, which you use for most projects, cost about $15 for just one. That adds up fast, especially if you craft a lot. I am using that here since that came with the Cricut machine and I haven't had to replace it yet. Personally, I like using off-brand blades from Amazon. They're super affordable, around $8 for a pack of 40 standard blades, and they usually come with a few extra blades in different angles too. The red is the standard blade, similar to the premium fine point blade. As you can see, I only have 2 left, but I bought these years ago. The cut setting for me seems to work about the same, so I really love having these as an option. Another item that I definitely recommend is the Cricut Machine Tool Organizer. This is what I use to store the rest of my Cricut blades, and it's set up so well. The top compartment has custom slots that fit up to 10 Cricut tool housings, and the bottom holds up to 9 quick swap tips. I've collected quite a few blades, so I love that this keeps all of them in one place and it doesn't take up too much space either. Now, for specialty blades like the scoring wheel, knife blade, or rotary blade, I do recommend sticking with Cricut brand. These are high quality tools and I've had great results using them. One more tip, if you're using an Explorer Air machine, they actually make an off-brand engraving tool. Engraving is a maker-only feature, but I've tested this tool on the Explorer Air and it works really well. I even have a video showing how it works. I'll link it down below if you want to check it out. Now let's talk pens and markers. These are the Cricut pens I have, and personally, I really like the Cricut brand. They write super well with the machine and the quality is great. That being said, you can use these pen adapters for your Cricut machine. With these, you can use fine point markers, then permanent markers, gel pens, as you can see, all different kinds. I've used the fine permanent markers a lot for projects. I love that this gives me a variety of options. For heat press projects, I recommend using the Cricut heat mat. There are off-brand versions out there. I haven't personally tried them, so I can't speak to how well those work. You can use a towel instead, but I find the Cricut mat way more convenient and it gives you a nice even surface for pressing. I also suggest getting the larger size if you can, especially for those bigger projects. I actually really like the Cricut heat press machines. They don't take up much space, they're super convenient to use, and I found they work really well. I personally recommend the larger one, the 12x10, because it just makes projects like sweatshirts, pillows, totes so much easier. However, if you're making a ton of heat press projects, especially if you're selling them, I'd actually recommend getting a full-size heat press machine. They do all the heavy pressing for you, and in my experience, they're a bit more foolproof, especially when you're doing bulk orders or need consistent results. If you're looking at the Cricut Easy Press Mini for small heat press projects, I do recommend going with the Cricut brand. One thing Cricut really does well is putting a lot of thought into their machines and heat presses, and for this one, I definitely stick with the original. I use my Mini constantly. It's great for so many of those small heat press projects. For the last part of this video, I'm going to talk about materials. When you first get your Cricut, you might get a bundle that includes Cricut vinyl, or you might pick some up thinking it's the best place to start. And honestly, Cricut vinyl is decent, but I personally prefer other brands. For adhesive vinyl, my go-tos are StarCraft HD. I buy this from 143 Vinyl's website. I also like Oracal 651. I usually buy this from Michael's. Tech Wrap Craft is another great one. These are all permanent options, and I just find that they weed easily, apply smoothly, and hold up really well over time. When it comes to heat transfer vinyl or HTV, I usually reach for Caesar, Tech Wrap Craft, or HTV Ront. These brands offer a variety of HTV types. They cut and weed well, feel great on shirts, and are super durable through washes. When I first got my Cricut, I started out using Cricut transfer tape, and I really struggled with it. Then I tried a few other brands, but still struggled. That didn't seem much better. But the past couple years, I've been using Caesar transfer tape, and it's been a game changer. It's clear, has grid lines for easy placement, and it picks up and releases the vinyl really well. One of my favorite things about it is that it's not too sticky, which makes it perfect for more delicate projects, like when you're adding vinyl to cardstock. It doesn't rip or damage the surface like some of the others can. I do, however, still like the Cricut Strong Grip transfer tape, but only when I'm using glitter adhesive vinyl. Since glitter vinyl is thicker, I found the Strong Grip works really well for that specific material. Lastly, Cricut sells infusible ink, which is kind of like sublimation, but the cool thing is you don't need a sublimation printer or special ink to use it. You can make some really fun, vibrant projects with this. That said, it can be a little tricky to work with. Sometimes it's hard to weed, and you really have to follow each step carefully. Missing one could mess with your final result. Michaels also sells something very similar. They call them sublimation sheets. So there are a few options out there if you want to try this style of project without fully diving into sublimation printing. That is it for today's video. Let me know what products you prefer. I love to hear what others are using. I'll have links for my favorite products down in my description box. I hope you found this video helpful. Once again, if you did, give it a thumbs up, and I would love it if you subscribed if you are new to my channel.